know a lot of people are intimidated by this one, but it's a lot easier than you think. We are just going to jump in, and the only part of this painting that we're really doing wet on wet is the sky. So I went in and I put water down, but I kind of left gaps in the sky because I wanted it to have the effect of clouds, and I'm using the white of the paper for the clouds. So as you can see, I'm not really filling in the entire area, and it's just such a small part of the sky. And of course, it depends on which state you're using. Like I know Maine has more sky, but this one has less, so it just depends. But you want to leave the gaps in the paper for the sky, and then later on just add a little bit of gray shadow just to kind of make those clouds look like clouds instead of just gaps in the paper. And then I'm just kind of filling in some of the gray shadowing for some of the clouds on this side that's a little bit darker. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in, there's like mountains off in the background that you can kind of see. So once I'm done with that, I'm just kind of, it's watered down Payne's gray that I'm using for this mountain. And like I said, it's a smaller piece. Like obviously we're not using the entire paper. We're just filling in this one area. But I put like a Payne's gray base and then just add a little bit of sap green to it just to give it that kind of like mountain color. It's a granite state, so we want a little bit more of that granite color with a little bit of the green tint to it. But of course you can do whatever color you want for the mountains. And since it's like a bright sunny spring day, I'm going with this really beautiful bright green color for a lot of this painting. So I'm using sap green from Dr. P.H. Martin. And this is kind of this color is one of my go-to colors. If you were going to say like what are your top 5 colors used with Dr. P.H. Martin, I would definitely say the sap green is one of them. So sap green would be one, and I would also definitely add Payne's gray to that one. I would also add Indian red. It's just a more organic looking red than the other color reds that have a little bit more pink to them. I like it because you can go straight to paper, especially for things like this covered bridge later. We're going to use the Indian red. So I would say those 3 colors, probably gamboge, just so you can have like a yellow in there, and it's a nice muted yellow, and it goes a really long way. And black. I know black is probably one that you don't hear too many watercolorists say they would recommend using, because they say you don't use black, you don't use white. I am not one of those people. I am not a purist, so I am a big supporter of the black paint, especially for some of like our night sky stuff that I've done. So if you like some of the night sky stuff that I've done, then definitely pick up the black as well. And bleed proof white is also fun one if you're going to be doing the night skies. It's great for the stars, but also we're going to be using it here as well for the water and some detail work. So I would say those are great ones to start off with. Sap green here is, as you can see, making a huge huge coverage on the painting, and I'm just kind of mishmashing the green leaves in here. There's no rhyme or reason to how I'm doing it. It's just the more you can do your green leaves without thinking about it, the better they'll probably come out. The messier you be, you're just kind of scribbling is really what you're doing. And I know a lot of people just probably don't like that kind of direction. They're like, no, I want to actually know how to do leaves. But I hate to break it to you, it really is just kind of being messy and scribbling and not overthinking it, which I know all of us, not all of us, a lot of us are guilty of doing. I am absolutely guilty of overthinking things. So here is that gamboge that I talked about. My students love this color because they just said it's fun to say the name gamboge. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's Gamboge. So I say gamboge. I don't know what a lot of these colors are actually called because I learned from reading them. So I know like the phthalo green, the PTHALO. I used to call it palo green, but I've heard enough artists say phthalo green that I'm like, okay, well, phthalo green it is. Phthalo green, phthalo blue. But here we go, just putting in some gamboge. So the best way to treat this painting is kind of think of it like a paint by numbers. And that's why I think it's a lot easier than it looks, because we're not really going in with any crazy techniques. We're going in with just filling in the spots. So now I'm doing the flowers first. I did some yellows here and there. I'm putting some purples in here. If it gets too bright, just take your paper towel or your towel and just press down and lift up the color. And I'm just putting my colors in first because I really want to know where my flowers are. Like, I don't want my flowers to be an afterthought. So I want my flowers to come in first. And then I'm going to go in afterwards and just kind of fill in the areas with green. And that's really all it is. It's just kind of taking it one section at a time. Now, towards the end of the painting, you'll see I actually literally completely forgot to do the covered bridge. I signed it and everything. I was like, woo, I'm done. And then I realized, like, oh, I am nowhere near done. So this painting actually just does a little mind trick on me halfway through. But yeah, it's there's a lot of little pieces to it, which is what my point was. Because it's kind of like a paint by numbers, which if you've ever done a paint by numbers, especially the really nice ones that they have now, there's so many little pieces to it that you can very easily forget like a part of it. Or like the diamond painting is another example. I've never done one, but I kind of get the concept. I imagine when you're doing the diamond painting that you're looking at it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm done. And then you realize you missed a whole section, especially if it's a lighter color or something that blends into the color next to it. So it's kind of what happened to me here. So it's really, I guess I can say this is a way of me proving this is a paint by number, which obviously it's not, but if you kind of come in with that mentality, then I think that it will help a lot. So now I'm doing some pinks in here. Like I said, this is just a fun spring piece. I'm looking out my window right now. Ooh, and I just see a giant plane landing. It's like a C5 landing. I was going to comment on the tree, and then the plane popped up behind it, and it's very distracting. I'm very close to Pease Airport. Airport. I'm okay. And we do get all the big military planes in here, which is sometimes fun, mostly fun. I don't want to say it's not fun. I'm a military brat, so I'm not condemning the planes, but sometimes they're so loud I feel like they're about to hit the building. So that part I don't like so much, but it was really cool. So I'm looking at my trees right now, and the greens are starting to bud. We have a little tiny greens budding on the trees. So spring is just starting to come in here in northern New England. My maple trees, there's a lot of maple trees in the grassy area in front of me, and they have like the red blooms, and then once the red blooms fall, then the leaves come in, and the red blooms are now falling. So spring is just creeping in so slowly. It's teasing all of us here because we had a very brutal winter, and it's just kind of holding on for its last life here. And it's just like this week we're getting a lot of rain, and it's just gloomy. But I'm hoping that just means we're going to have this really beautiful, vibrant spring next month. And this painting just reminds me of that. Like, just lots of pinks, lots of yellows. I love that I live somewhere that I literally have right now bright pink and bright purple hyacinths just blooming in my yard. They're just growing wild. It's all these, and then these little tiny purple flowers. I forgot what they're called. They're like snow something, like snow... they're called snow flowers, but I forgot exactly what they're called, but they have like this blanket of purple flowers. My backyard is just like got all these beautiful wild flowers just blooming, and it just makes me so happy. And so I'm kind of excited because this painting also has a lot of these bright, beautiful colors, and it's just a happy spring piece. And now I'm doing the roof of the covered bridge. This isn't any specific bridge or any specific location in New Hampshire. It's kind of your generic looking covered bridge and mountains, but I would say it's kind of reminds me more of central New Hampshire. I don't think we really have any covered bridges. I'm almost positive we don't here in the seacoast area, but this just reminds me of quintessential central New Hampshire, like where the White Mountains are. And I know that in my video description I can say you can use whatever state you want. I just don't know if this would work so much for like Arizona, right? So I'm guessing this is going to probably stick to the New England areas, but you could do like New York, Massachusetts is going to be a little bit more difficult because Massachusetts is long and doesn't have that height for the sky and stuff. But maybe, I don't know if maybe you can get creative with Massachusetts, but like New York, Vermont definitely can do that for this one. Um, I don't know what other states would have anything like this. Maybe you could tell me tell me in the comments. Do you live somewhere that I haven't mentioned that has these really beautiful covered bridges? Let me know. Okay, so the rocks. I know the rocks are kind of a point of contention for a lot of my students. They're like, my rocks don't look like rocks. Like, well, rocks don't really look like rocks in general. Like, rocks, every rock is different and they're kind of just there. And I think we tend to just really overthink rocks, especially rocks that are off in the distance in a landscape piece like this. So just do quick light gray or grayish wash to the rocks, and then add the shadows to the base of them where the rocks meet the ground, because where the rocks meet the ground, you're gonna have that really nice dark shadow. And then just kind of do that, and then have a little bit of the shadow behind it. Don't overthink it. If you try overthinking it, you're going to get so caught up on the rocks, and they're going to end up being the center of your painting, which I've seen a lot of people do. They're like, I can't get my rocks to look like rocks. They keep adding shadows, and next thing you know, all you can see on the painting is these rocks, because it becomes this dark focal point, which we don't want to do. So kind of think of it as a foregone conclusion with your painting. Do the bare minimum with them. Don't overthink it, and just fill them in. So now, remember earlier I mentioned that we're doing the flowers, so we can just fill in the green after. So to do the green, I'm just doing kind of a base green right now, just to fill in behind the flowers. And then I'm going to go in once that dries and add in like some blades of grass here and there, just to make it look more like it has depth. And that's where you lose that flatness of a painting. So a lot of times people are like, well, why does my painting look so flat here? Well, go in and add the blades of grass, add in some more elements to it. So it's kind of a conundrum where people are like, my painting looks flat, or they overwork their painting. It's that finding that happy middle ground that really becomes the trick to watercolor. A lot of times, if your painting is looking flat, then what you're missing is more elements to it. You need to keep going. If it looks flat, keep going. If you get to a point where you're kind of like, I don't know what else to do, stop. If you feel like you're like, I feel like it needs a little bit more, or I need to add a little bit more, and you're kind of questioning it at that point, that is a really, really great point to just stop your painting, because that is very often the times that people end up start overworking their painting. So, and then just put it aside, even if it's just to go get a coffee break or go get some lunch, start another painting, and then you can come back later and work on it a little bit more. So here I am using my Micron pen to fill in this monarch butterfly. I put the orange down quite a bit ago just so that I can let it dry. So once I put the Micron pen, it doesn't bleed. You can use a paintbrush if you want. I was specifically doing this painting for a paint night. Like, I knew when I was doing this, it was very specific to do a paint night. So whenever I do a paint night, I simplify my paintings as much as possible, because oftentimes it's just people coming in, they want a cocktail, they want to socialize, they don't really want to learn a painting skill, they just want to paint something and have it completed. So that's where the Micron pen comes in. If you want to use your paintbrush, by all means use your paintbrush. If I was painting this on my own, I would definitely use a paintbrush instead. And so I use a Micron pen also to frame the painting as well, because I wanted to I think just doing a nice border around the painting gives it a nice, clean, crisp, finished feel. And like I said, I thought I was done. I signed the painting, and I'm just like, oh my god, I full on forgot the whole bridge, which is literally the center point of the painting. How does that even happen? And it's red. I don't have any excuse for this. I forgot to paint the big red bridge in the middle of my painting. It's ridiculous. So here I am, just painting it. Here's that Indian red I talked about that I really, really love. I use it a lot in my Christmas pictures. It's just that perfect Christmas red for me. I go through so many bottles of the sap green and the Indian red during the holiday season because of my paint nights. Between the paint nights and the videos, I probably go through 3 or 4 bottles each, which is a lot because they're the big 1 ounce bottles, and that kind of bottle can last somebody who's just painting on their own like 1 or 2 years easily. And I would go through 3 or 4 bottles in the wintertime. So yeah, it's a great color. So I did end up putting, I was just irritated with this painting at this point, just more with myself because I was so irritated. I forgot the painting and I was mentally done. And then I had to go back and put this big piece into it. So I went and drew the kind of the stone pieces with the micron pen and then went over with a wash. And micron pen doesn't bleed very easily, so I very quickly went over the wash and it was just enough to give it that stone look, and I actually ended up loving the way it looked. So much I might do this if I were to do this again on my own. I probably still would do that. So pen first for the bricks or the stones, and then the wash over it, just to soften it a bit. And then I love doing this. I do this with literally any architectural piece, especially if I'm doing like home portraits. I take a ruler and I take the micron pen and I kind of go over the roof. Obviously, if you have like a white roof, you can't really do that. But if I just like giving that final touch with the micron pen to give those nice sharp architectural edges to buildings, and it just really gives it a nice finished touch. And now I'm taking my bleed proof white and putting a couple more these little highlights into the water just to kind of I did it with the paint itself, like the lack of paint to the paper, but I just wanted a little bit more here. And also, like I said, for a paint night, I felt like this is just easier to do than using the paper. So this is another way of me simplifying the process for my paint nights. If you want to use the white of the paper, you can, but this just is easier. And I truly believe in getting the painting you want, and the results you want is more important than being purist. That is my philosophy. So here I am just working on making this look more like a little waterfall on the creek. And I was really happy with the way it turned out. So let me know what you think. I didn't really go into too much detail on craft because it was really just kind of a paint by number type approach. But other than that, let me know what you think and what state you're from, and I'll see you in the next video.